him. When you talk about press intrusion, there was one area that particularly annoyed you, I know, and that was a particular question about your sexuality. Now, I didn't realize this, but I was amused, forgive me for being amused, that you were first asked about this when how old were you?
I was, I think, 16.
16. You're asked about, I mean, you're a child, not making your mind up. You've always said that you're not gay. You've always said that your sexual experiences have been with women. Is all of that true?
Well, that's true, but you know, I've thought about this for a long time.
I bet. Yeah.
I'm not straight.
You're not.
And this is only something that very recently, we're talking in the past 2 weeks, I've been comfortable telling the closest people around me exactly that.
After the break.
I don't want young people to feel the same way that I did.
The reaction from his family and friends.
What about, you mentioned there, the depth of depression. You describe it very vividly in the book, and I'd like you to tell me what it was like. At its worst, what does it involve, that? You can't get out of bed.
You can't get out of bed. You don't want to get out of bed. You know, the only reason you will get out of bed is, you know, to use the bathroom. I isolated myself in a way that, you know, I'd go through the kitchen because I knew I had to eat and just find something, just so I didn't have to leave the house. And, you know, it was like bunkering down. And I had periods where I had to get through this. And then there was periods where I was going through that, but getting myself to the pool, doing the laps. And, you know, all of this exercise is healthy.
Yes.
It helps, you know, people with depression. I just don't know how much is healthy.
Yeah, but then you raise an interesting point there, because I've always thought about swimmers and that repetition of lap after lap after lap, as you say, you prefer to the real thing. But that is so monotonous. It must make you feel like I don't know, a robot of some sort, and it must have an extraordinary numbing effect on the brain. That's how I would see it.
Well, when I was a kid, I did feel like a robot. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. You know, I pictured myself, I had goggles on, this was the control room, you know, it moved the arms, and as the arms got tired, you know, I moved, you know, more kind of miniature men to those kind of arms to be able to get through it. But when we talk about, and I can see it from the outside, people see it as being monotonous. I don't. I love this part. You know, for me, this is like practicing the same note. You know, a musician will sit in their room, you know, rehearsing something. And, you know, I think it's easy for people to go, oh, I understand that. I don't, you know, and they struggle to see it, though, in swimming. But for me, you know, I was refining, you know, what would be my next performance. And so I'm listening, I'm feeling. And I'm preparing, even in those laps that are so long.
Now, what you mentioned earlier on now, one of the consequences, again, of this deep depression that you had, a crippling depression you once described it as, that you contemplated suicide. How old would you have been when that first suggested itself to you?
Well, I think there's a difference in, I believe there's a difference in thinking about suicide, and then actually, you know, contemplating suicide. I think the idealization and, you know, thinking about this, it's a different thing. You know, what it would be like, what it would feel like.
It's not theoretical.
That's right. I think this is quite normal, but when you actually start setting yourself up for the circumstances where you would do it, this is contemplating.
And that's
suicide.
what you did?
Yes.
You did. So you think of the method?
Yeah.
And you think of the note you might leave and that sort of thing?
Yeah, or if I would.
If you would have. Well,
I would.
But you went through all those possibilities.
Yeah.
And the consequences of friends and family.
Yeah.
And what might that have been the reason that you didn't...
It was. I couldn't deal with leaving friends and family.
Yes.
I couldn't do it to them. This is happening to me, but it was the only thing that stopped me,
yes.
I think.
Well, I mean, I don't want to ask you the detail of what you thought of. You were just swimming out to sea until you disappeared or something like that.
Look, that would be beautiful. And that sounds terrible, but, you know, that would be, yeah, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't want to do that to someone.
Yes.
Plus, I'd hate the headlines that I drowned.
Talking about the headlines, at 24, you quit swimming, and you said, I didn't quit swimming because I didn't like it anymore. I stopped it because I didn't like what I'd become. You said you felt like a performing seal. Why was that? I mean, was that the depression looking back? Was that what it was? Or?
No.
What was it?
Partly. It was partly the depression, but I struggled with the success of what I did. You know, I wanted...
The consequences of the success, you mean?
Yes. I just wanted to swim. And when that was taken away from me, when I wasn't able to have, you know, the peace that I needed at training, when that was interrupted by, you know, photographers following me, you know, it felt as though it was being taken away, and that my career was not my own. It was other people's. And I felt that I needed to get my life back. And I thought that the way that I could do it was to just stop swimming. And I could get my life back. And it's unfortunate that I did it. I know why I did it. Now I wish that I hadn't. But it's what I needed to do.
I mean, just think how many more medals you might have won.
Yes. Like, I mean, yes. You can think of that. And this is, you know, a very simple way. You know, this is the easiest way for people to judge successes, to look at the medals, to look at those results. And yes, I could have. But I could have, during my career, I could have won even more medals as well. If I had it right, I could have won more.
I mean, this kind of turmoil, the inner turmoil that you're going through at this point in time, I mean, it just gives some indication, as you said, you've been talking now about what might have happened, of the state of mind that you were in. And when you talk about press intrusion, there was one area that particularly annoyed you, I know, and that was a particular question about your sexuality. Now, I didn't realize this, but I was amused, forgive me for being amused, that you were first asked about this when how old were you?
I was, I think, 16.
16. You're asked about that. I mean, you're a child, not making your mind up. You've always said that you're not gay. You've always said that your sexual experiences have been with women. Is all of that true?
Well, that's true, but you know, I've thought about this for a long time.
I bet. Yeah.
I'm not straight.
You're not.
And this is only something that very recently, we're talking in the past 2 weeks, I've been comfortable telling the closest people around me exactly that.
After the break.
I don't want young people to feel the same way that I did.
The reaction from his family and friends.
No.
Well, I've wanted to for some time. But I couldn't. I didn't feel as though I could. You know, the problem was I was asked at such a young age about my sexuality, and, you know, I went to an all-boys school, and if you get, you know, and I hate that it's called an accusation because it isn't a negative thing, and usually this is the terminology we use, but I went to an all-boys school, so if you're accused of being gay, the first answer is no, and then you get ready for a fight. This is what happens, and I didn't know at this age. I'm too young, and so the answer was no. Then, you know, I carried this, that the next way I'd answer this is telling people that I thought it was inappropriate to be asking a child, you know, such kind of questions.
And that's certainly true.
And also that it's not appropriate for that question to be asked of anyone.
No.
But what happened was I felt the lie had become so big that I didn't want people to question my integrity. And, you know, a little bit of ego comes into this. I didn't want people to question that, you know, have I lied about everything?
Well, I did lie about it.
Yes, I did.
You did?
I did. Everyone does.
You don't feel ashamed of that, do you?
No, I don't. You know, and I'm saying, and I'm comfortable saying I'm a gay man. Mm. And I don't want young people to feel the same way that I did. You can grow up, you can be comfortable, and you can be gay. I was concerned about the reaction from my family, my friends, and I'm pleased to say that in telling them, and especially my parents, you know, they told me that they love me and they support me. And for young people out there, know that that's usually what the answer is.
Do you think your parents were shocked by the revelation? Or do you think that they had, particularly your mum, might have shown?
They were shocked.
They were shocked, were they?
Yeah, my mum literally said she was shocked.
Really?
Yes.
Really? And your close friends, similarly too, did they say to you, maybe we would know that all along?
No, you know, my friends were a little bit more like, okay, you know, fair enough. And they said, you know, we had some suspicions. And, you know, I confirmed that, and, you know, they were great. And I needed my friends first. I told them first.
And what about the business of concealing this again? Because, I mean, you know, you sought psychiatric help. You didn't tell the psychiatrist this at all.
Yeah, I had never spoken to a psychiatrist about this until, well, actually, I hadn't until I told, you know, people. And then my psychiatrist happened to ring me up and say, how are you going? And I said, by the way, I just came out. He went, okay, I hope it all went well. But, you know, I concealed this, and I think that I've held this as such a weight, and there's so much pain in this. And the discussion, you know, that I had anger around this because I felt like I shouldn't have been asked about it. You know, if I wasn't asked, I feel as though I would have been much younger when I came out and
yes.
being comfortable about this.
Yes.
I would have, you know, I wouldn't have lived a very different life, but I could have been proud of the fact that, yes, I'm out.
Yes. I mean, it is... I mean, it was your own choice to actually back off this answering this question and live with the consequences of it. And what you've been telling me before this about the kind of state you were in, the depression, you must now consider that maybe this secret might have been the real cause of your depression.
I don't think it's the real cause. No. I think that it hasn't helped. I know that it hasn't helped. And, you know, now it will be something that I work on with a doctor. Is, you know, trying to, you know, live a lie, which I was doing. But I was already living somewhat of a lie, you know, in my life, because I was trying to be what I thought was the right athlete by other people's standards. You know, I wanted to make people proud. I wanted to make my family proud. I wanted to make my nation proud of me. And part of me didn't know if Australia wanted its champion to be gay. But, you know, I'm telling not only Australia, I'm telling the world that I am. And I hope it makes this easier for others now. And even if you've held it in for years, it feels better to lift this and get this out.
Have you thought this through to the extent of planning ahead, going back to Australia, facing, you know, the media is still there. You know, those that criticised before are going to make fun of us. So whatever they will do, it won't be comfortable for, I don't think, for a while. But you must imagine too that the Aussie public would accept you back. They've always loved you, no matter what. You know.
Yeah, I think I know that people don't care about this, and I've made it a bigger deal than it needed to be. And if I answered this simply, you know, earlier, it would have been a lot easier in my life. People will criticize me. Some people won't like the idea. Other people may applaud me for it. But it's me.
And importantly, it's yes, you made that decision, and now it's done. So now you start, well, it's basically actually a new life in a sense, isn't it?
Well, it is. You know, I've been so caught up in this that, you know, I am looking forward to being able to get on with my life. You know, to not have any secrets, and that it's all out there. You know, I am a person who doesn't just go out there and tell everyone everything about myself. You know, I don't feel comfortable doing that. But, you know, this is one thing that I'm now comfortable with, and it's out there, and we get on with things. Nothing changed. I, you know, didn't change the weather or anything else when it happened.
Nobody died.
No.
Still to come, secrets and lies.
A convenient lie for me,
Yes.
to not accept it, because I wasn't accepting it in myself. I didn't want to be gay. But, you know, I realized everything that I was doing, I still was gay at the end of the day.
Thinking back over your life now, reflecting on all the reasons why you didn't come out before now, was there one main reason that dissuaded you from being frank?
Not one main reason, but you hear things. You know, I heard, you know, a lot of homophobic kind of things. I mean, I was subjected to homophobic kind of insults as well.
Like an example.
People in the street, you know, would yell out, you know, call me a faggot or whatever else, you know, poof for doing this. Or...
They're taking a bit of risk with somebody your size, weren't they?
Well, that's right. But I'm also told, you know, I've got to manage myself and, you know, don't get in a fight, it will be in the paper and then someone will sue and all of that rubbish. But, you know, if I had a chance to deck all of the people that I felt like I'd be in jail by now. So I'm glad I haven't. But you hear these remarks and, you know, things around someone's career, their marketability and things like that that kept me in this lie that became a convenient lie for me.
Yes.
To not accept it, because I wasn't accepting it in myself. I didn't want to be gay. But, you know, I realized everything that I was doing, I still was gay at the end of the day. So that was most definitely part of it. And then it was just that big lie that I felt there was a weight with that. And also what people's reaction was going to be. I was scared.
What I don't quite understand is that you did have relations with girls.
Yeah.
Before this. But you'd also meet attractive men who you'd actually fall for and think that would be nice to go out with him or what. And that was the...
No, I wouldn't.
You didn't? You never...
Like, I'd recognize attractive men, but I'd never really consider hooking up with them because I was scared of people finding out.
Yes.
Like, that was
Yes.
what I was worried about.
Yes.
So I was, you know, trying to avoid all of this, any emotion, any feeling
Yes.
that I had towards, you know, good-looking men.
What did you feel when you were insulted in the street? I mean, apart from that, did you feel sorrow for your fellow man or what? I mean, what were the feelings when you walked down the streets and they called you a faggot, and you can see that hatred in their eyes and their voice?
Yeah, I felt sorry for them that this is, you know, how they feel. But it's still, it's painful. And then, you know, I feel myself draw, you know, further and further into the closet because of it. But I also have friends that get implicated into this, and this is what probably hurt me the most over the years, is that, you know, my life is public, it's become public, part of that is not a choice, and I want parts of it to be private, and have these real boundaries. But, you know, when my friends get accused that, you know, I haven't been doing these things in the public, and they're just my mates. That's all they are.
Yes.
And I know in saying this now, you know, my close friends can be accused of being, you know, my lover. And it's happened before.
When did it happen before?
It happened in 2009. My housemate, who'd lived with me, I was on a vacation in Brazil, and we're in Brazil. There was a photo, and instantly, you know, this is my lover. He was my housemate, one of my best mates. But, you know, he's then drawn into this, and I loathe that because I have always tried to protect everyone else from what I'm doing.
You have to face the facts, of course, that, you know, this story is a big story, and that your life is going to be under the same kind of scrutiny, if not intensified, from now on. You're going to be...
Yes.
And you're prepared for this, are you?
No, I accept that.
You accept that,
I accept that completely.
Right. Because you're not living the lie anymore, you don't need to be frightened of, you've come clean, and they can't ask you the question because you've answered it.
That's right. And look, the only thing is I'm a little bit ashamed that I didn't come out earlier. That I didn't have the strength to do it. I didn't have the courage to do it, to break that lie. But everyone goes on their own path to do this. But I just don't want that struggle to be so hard for other people.
It will transform your life, hopefully, for the better.
I hope so. I think so.
You do?
I do think so. Even from, you know, and this is very new for me, you know, telling my parents and close people, you know, they reflected and said, you know, it's like you're not a different person, but a happier person, a person that they know, that they remember.
How old were you when your father made that extraordinary remark where he said to the media, "We've lost him to the world"?
Yeah, he said, "I think I've just lost my son to the world." I was 15 at the World Championships. It's quite profound.
Yeah, it's certainly prophetic, isn't it? When you look back at it.
It was accurate.
Yes.
It really was. And, you know, my parents have wanted more than anything else is to have their son back.
Coming up on Ian Thorpe, the Parkinson Interview, Ian's passionate personal crusade.
I want Australians to know that this is happening in our own backyard.
The revelations continue.
Can I ask a personal question? I mean, are you looking...
That's plenty already, so keep going.
Let's talk now about when you go back to Australia? Because you love Australia. It's not difficult to love Australia, but you've lived there and you've actually experienced things there that you disapprove of. But do you see yourself now taking a more active part in what you don't like about Australia? Maybe we could explore that first of all, about if you were to tell me what you most disliked about Australia, what would that be?
The injustice that Indigenous people face in Australia. If there's one thing that I feel that Australia needs to do is recognise this is a major issue. I mean, even if we just look at it is the only pressing health emergency that we have in Australia is Indigenous people with a number of different conditions. These are what all of the experts say. This is what the doctors say.
Only they have those conditions.
This is, well, you know, if we're talking about diseases that have been eradicated from cities decades ago, some Indigenous people, some Aboriginal people, you will have, you know, a number 3 or 4 of these things that were completely preventable. And I want Australians to know that this is happening in our own backyard. You know, I value things in Australia that, you know, you have the opportunity to have a free education and access to universal health care. These are important things that we have, yet that isn't extended to our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the same way that we'd like it to be for our own children. And I'd like to bring it not only up to par, but to go beyond that, because we need to catch up.
What about the charity that you've set up for Indigenous people? Does this deal with that problem, or is it a more overall umbrella kind of concern?
It's an umbrella. We support Indigenous people in what they need. We help establish Indigenous businesses to increase employment, and we've had a number of successes with that, with the charity. We go into schools, we provide books to what are often bookless homes. This is in Australia. We have been able to work with Indigenous principals and teachers to improve literacy. When we started, you know, this charity is almost 15 years old now. When we started doing programs, illiteracy was 97% in one of the communities. This is in Australia. So we started in a tough area, but we're starting to see results. And if you invest in the right people, you can see it across the board. And it becomes from a few committed individuals. We have schools that outperformed, you know, other schools in Australia on the national average. And so there's success stories, there's happy stories in here. But I see too often just this stereotype of Indigenous people that is not accurate. And I think it is time that we actually recognise that we have this tremendous culture on our doorstep, and it's time to embrace it, and it's time to recognise Indigenous people for their contribution to the nation.
You see, all that indicates that the sort of passion that you have and you feel about it, concern, a deep concern for the political future of Australia. It is changing. I mean, I've been going to Australia for, I don't know now, since the late 1970s, so I know the country well, and I love it like you do, but as an outsider. But, so therefore, I mean, would you consider a political life? Would that be something that you might think, yeah, well, I might have a pop at this, try to change things from the inside? Because there is a momentum in Australia to change things, isn't there?
There's a momentum, most definitely. But I look at this stage, I feel that I offer more value from the outside. You know, people often ask me about politics. They ask me whether or not I would like to be a politician. I'm interested in politics. I always have been. But it's not for me now. It may be in the future.
All right, so let's consider then now the possibilities. I mean, can I ask you, a personal question. I mean, are you looking at...
plenty already, so keep going.
No, I mean, it fascinates me now, your future, where you go from here, how you change gear, how you change your life. Would you be looking for a partner, for a long-term partnership?
Yes,
you would.
I would like that.
Yeah, you've thought about that quite obviously.
Yeah, I have. And I want a family. I've been asked about this, and I want a family. I love kids. And I'd love to have a family. I have a wonderful nephew and a beautiful niece, and I'd like my own family.
And is that likely to happen then? Have you sort of thought beyond that? Have you looked to the ways and means that this might happen?
Well, I've gotten a little bit closer now, I think, than what I was before. But there's a number of ways that it can happen.
Now, you once said also, too, about one moment in your life. You said that you wish you'd not been born with this great gift that you had, this great physical gift.
Yes.
So I mean, we've been talking about what you might do, but the question now is, what might you have done had you actually not had that gift? What would have been your path through life?
Yeah, look, I struggle with whether or not I would love this gift or if I didn't want it. But look, growing up, I saw this exhibition where it was a Lego exhibition, so I wanted to be the engineer, Lego engineer, basically the guy that put the Lego together at that exhibition. That was the first thing I wanted to do.
Sorry to laugh, but I mean... No, I'm sure. No,
I still might go back to it. I mean, Legoland's around the corner from here, so on the way back.
I can get you a free pass there if you like.
Yeah, thank you. And then I wanted to be a neurologist.
Ah, and how keen was that ambition? At what age was that?
When I was at high school.
You studied psychiatry, didn't you, for a while at university? Was that an attempt to actually then find out about yourself?
Of course it was.
And did it help? Did it offer you any...
I think it helped, but it helped in a way that I had more questions than answers.
Yes.
And, you know, it's best dealing with these matters with another person rather than trying to work it all out yourself.
Yes. Can we just have a final thought? Because today you've actually changed the course of your life, and it's been a privilege to talk to you, really, about not just about that, but about everything. And, just a final thought from you. I mean, how you feel now? I mean, do you feel, just by telling us today what you did, do you feel different now? Do you feel happier, or what?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Do you know what? I have to wait for this to probably go to air. So when everyone sees this, I think this is when I can kind of breathe out. That's when, you know, I'll be happy with this, when people have heard it from me. But, you know, I look at my life, I've made mistakes, but I've made good choices in my life. And I think I've got back to one of the core values that is most important to me, which is my honesty and integrity. This is one thing that I value more than anything else. And I've just offered it to people.
Thorpe, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
Well done.